on voters' minds.
We'll bring in Alfonso Aguilar, the former chief of the Office of Citizenship, and Christopher Olivares, the staff lieutenant of the Texas Highway Patrol. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on. We do appreciate that. I'd like to start with Lieutenant Olivares, if I can, just on those numbers of obviously high numbers, but getting away from that, those numbers, the people behind these numbers. Is this shocking to you, and how should we take this news?
Good morning, Sean and Emma. So no, it's not shocking at all. We've expected this, as law enforcement that have been working the front lines on the border from the last 3.5 years, that we knew for a fact that when you allow a surge of, illegal immigration across the border, you're going to see this type of crime happening throughout the country. And we've seen it. We've seen it now with this category of migrant crime. We've seen it now with this new Venezuelan gang, Tren Agua, known as TDA. So it was expected. Of course, we try to sound the alarm and try to, tell the administration, also those that were concerned that this was going to happen if you continue to allow people into the country unvetted, unchecked. And this is a clear result of that. Now, of course, let's not take into account the gotaways, over 2 million known gotaways right now that are currently reported. Of course, the number is much higher. And I expect the numbers that you're talking about there as far as a crime is much higher as well. So this is going to be an ongoing problem, regardless of the change of leadership that we have. Moving forward, it's going to be a challenging task for law enforcement across the country to locate these individuals and remove them.
Sure. And I think more broadly, it goes to the fact that we don't know who these individuals are. We don't know their backgrounds. In many cases, you don't know their criminal histories. And Alfonso, if you were to fill out your CBP-1 application here, is there a box that you could check for being a criminal? It seems like there's no way to properly screen and vet these people who are trying to come into this country.
Well, absolutely. They're going to avoid sharing their background. Often we don't have access to the databases from the countries they're coming from, so we can't vet them properly. But just to echo what the sheriff said, the administration is complicit with what they have created the circumstances for allowing hundreds of thousands of criminals into the country. These are very serious criminals. We're talking about over 400,000 with criminal convictions. There are over 200,000 with pending criminal cases. Over 15,000 are convicted of rape. This is extremely serious, and this is a direct result of the open border policies of this administration. Make no doubt about that. We've been talking about this for a very long time, but frankly, the damage is done. Kamala Harris can now say, well, I'm going to be tough on the border. Why weren't you tough this past 3 years? Because by not being tough on the border, you've allowed millions of people to come in. These are people in what it's called the non-detention docket. They arrive without the proper documentation, and they're released into the community. That docket has gone up by millions. I think it's up to 7 million people that have been released into the country, are not being detained. And as you see, a good number of them are criminals.
Lieutenant, let's go back to you on this one. In control room, if we could do question 4, that's BB07. This ties into the Inspector General report that I'm sure you've seen, Lieutenant Olivares. The Department of Homeland Security Inspector General put this out. CBP, ICE, and TSA did not fully assess risks associated with releasing non-citizens without identification into the United States and allowing them to travel on domestic flights. This would never happen with any legal American citizen. You could barely get through TSA with shampoo, and this seemed to happen. Can you talk to that?
It's really just, shocking to even see that, right? As you mentioned, you can't even get on an airplane without going through multiple checkpoints, multiple security checkpoints. And now the fact that this report comes out that illegal immigrants were just being released, through these flights unvetted. And of course, that still continues to happen today. Keep in mind that, between the CBP-1 app and direct flights that are being flown from countries into the United States, it's well over 70 to 80,000 a month. So just because we don't see these large numbers between ports of entry does not mean the fact that the current federal government now is releasing legal immigrants into this country unvetted. That is still happening, especially with Venezuelans. And we see what's happening now with this Venezuelan gang. So, to not have these checks in place goes back to just being complicit to the issue. And the fact they still did not take this issue serious, knowing that there is serious consequences out there, the crime that's taking place, the fact that we're seeing more of these individuals with criminal backgrounds, ties to terrorism, other gangs as well, and yet there's still no security checks in place. And we continue, as a government, continues to release illegal immigrants into the United States.
Yeah. And there are plenty of programs that receive financial assistance when it comes to offering opportunities for folks entering illegally, whether it's support for housing or food, shelter. We've seen even FEMA step up. And I understand that that's sort of become part of the conversation here because we're tracking a major hurricane. You think about FEMA being called in to assist with those who've been impacted by devastating emergencies here. It's been explained by this administration as separate pockets of money here. So the money that's going to the migrants is separate from what you're going to get to those hurricane victims, and Congress is going to have to really step in and help out with those who've been impacted by Helene and in the future Milton. But Alfonso, can you maybe speak to the confusion that Americans might have about when you're seeing almost endless amounts of money going to people into the country illegally and you've got American citizens suffering?
Well, it's a question of priorities, right? It may be different pots of money, but at the end, it's incredible. The administration has, the executive has, within its budget, enough money to continue providing help to cities who are receiving migrants or to migrants directly, and to send money abroad for international assistance. But we don't have enough money to take care of Americans after natural disasters. That the administration has to go back to Congress to ask for more money. Well, they should have anticipated. It's a question of priorities. Again, they're thinking of their own leftist agenda of support of funding their globalist interests abroad and ensuring that they have enough money to welcome illegal immigrants, but they're not thinking, it's not a priority for them, those people that are going to be affected by natural disasters. In last week, Secretary Mayorkas said that they don't have enough money for the rest of the hurricane season. And we have the toughest months beginning now, October and November. So it's dramatic. And Karine Jean-Pierre admitted that they're going to have to go back to Congress to ask for more money. Yeah. Well, it's incredible how they always can find money for illegal immigrants, but they have to go back to Congress to ask money for Americans.
Yeah, that's a great point. It was mentioned in the White House press briefing room yesterday afternoon of how can the White House, this administration, dole out $157 million in assistance from the United States to Lebanon for those impacted who don't have water, shelter, electric, but they need Congress to come back to approve more money for those that need disaster relief in North Carolina, Florida, the Carolinas, Georgia, et cetera. The conversation continues. Alfonso Aguilar joining us, and Christopher Olivares, Lieutenant. Thank you very much.